Julianna Carella of Auntie Dolores fame. Stay tuned and she'll tell you why the company is called Auntie Dolores. She also goes into an explicit detail of the history of cannabis in California in every respect. We cover 280E. We cover what happened with all of the raids. We talked a whole bunch of stuff. So enjoy. Okay, so we did. Was it Sly Stone that we just? What was that? I don't know. But you did, and I thank you.
I just feel like grooving over here.
Absolutely.
Suddenly got really fun.
On a Sunday afternoon, or I think this is a Monday, so that's different. I'm very musical, Juliana.
Apparently.
Yeah. So it's Julianna Carella of Auntie Dolores fame, right? Well, I mean, in certain circles.
In certain circles, yeah, I guess you could say that.
And I love, now you've been doing this forever. So, 2008 even. Right?
Yeah.
And you're out of California. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I love the fact that the name is kind of a play on words in multiple languages.
Yes.
What the hell am I talking about?
Well, Dolores means pain in Spanish.
Uh-huh.
So it's a double entendre meaning anti-pain.
Okay. And we're here at the NCIA event, so there's we're deep within the catacombs of the convention center, and there's going to be various things that happen, like that young woman talking to that older man. And that'll be the ancillary noise that comes with us through this episode for the rest of time.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be everlasting. So anti-pain, because we don't like pain. Mm-mm. And I'm just trying to think what's good for pain management.
THC.
Oh.
CBD.
Oh,
yeah, those.
So you did this CBD thing all the way back when, right? What was the...
Well,
yeah.
To be honest, I mean, I had been trying for years to get my hands on the genetics. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until a few years back that I actually was able to, but it had been already a few years that I was trying to secure the source. So, yeah, it was pretty rare up until a couple years ago.
How did you know what you were talking about? Because let's go back all the way to the beginning. Okay. Are you from California originally?
Yes, San Francisco native.
Oh, so you are Bay Area original, OG,
absolutely.
I think is what the kids say.
That's what they say.
Yeah. And San Francisco, okay, and so what part of town, if we knew San Francisco?
Well, my grandfather was from North Beach and Oceanside, and had liquor stores in San Francisco back in the day when there was only 3. He had 2 of the liquor stores.
Okay. And have you since told your grandfather that cannabis is safer?
Actually, my grandfather sold medical alcohol during Prohibition. And then
What is medical alcohol? Are you messing with me?
No, I'm not. It's just this kooky coincidence in my family history. So
we have to please take us back to the Prohibition, the alcohol one. And what the hell are you talking about?
Well, yeah. So my grandfather was a pharmacist in San Francisco during Prohibition, and he happened to sell medical alcohol. And then after Prohibition, he became a very successful businessman in the liquor industry, and he owned 2 of the 3 liquor stores in San Francisco. So he was like one of the first license holders in San Francisco to have a liquor license.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Look at the similarities there.
It's weird.
It always skips a generation. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Or did it? Is that your mother's side or your father's side?
That's on my dad's side.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so then what did your father do?
Well, my father became an attorney, actually.
Oh, I see. And did he put your grandfather in jail, his father in jail, or?
No, but other people tried to.
Okay. All right. So he defended your grandfather, maybe.
Yeah. Well, he was, I think he was forced to become an attorney, actually, because the family needed one.
Yes. We're going to need a guy.
Yeah, we're going to need one of those guys.
Okay. All right. So then he grew up in San Francisco as well, the San Francisco area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then what about your mother's side?
Mom's side, also San Francisco natives.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're like the true thing.
Yeah, 3rd generation.
Oof. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
And so then your mother, what about her parents? What?
Her parents were Irish Catholics. You know, they grew up in San Francisco as well. My grandfather was an attorney. And
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So attorney, a lot of lawyers.
Yeah, a lot of lawyers.
All right, that's fine. I think we've had a lot of lawyers on this thing, so that's fine.
There better be a lot of lawyers around. We need them.
We absolutely need. That's exactly right.
Unfortunately, we need them more than we like to admit.
Well, the ones that we have are pretty good, though.
Yeah,
we like
totally.
ours, you know? Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got Irish Catholic and you've got Carella, I'm guessing is Italian.
A little bit, yeah.
I'm looking at you and I don't have to guess, really. Yeah. All right. So then we've got this outlaw liquor salesman. Then we've got his lawyer son. And what did your mother do? What does your mother do?
Well, my mom is a color consultant, so she does.
Did you say a color consultant?
Yeah, color consultation for houses and yeah.
Oh, for houses, like an interior design type situation.
Similar. Yeah.
Okay, so if I need to know what matches, she knows.
She knows. Yeah.
Okay, I do not know. That's why.
Most men are colorblind.
Yeah, no, denim jeans, a very simple shirt. That's about that.
All you need to know.
Exactly.
Really.
But she knows more.
She might.
And so does that, she's got that artistic side, I think. Your father's got the business side. And then is that where we find Julianna?
They're both really creative in the kitchen. So I learned I learned all my food skills from my parents and my extended family.
Okay. So your father can make sauce, is basically.
Yeah, he's quite an awesome chef. Both my parents are really good in the kitchen.
Okay.
My whole
And
family's quite good.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So let's give everybody's bona fides. So your father, he can do the sauce. What else does he do?
My dad is great about just whipping up some impromptu dishes just with whatever's around. So he'll go shopping for what he wants to make that night, whatever he feels like. So it's kind of fun.
Okay. So I've got an avocado, some black pepper, and like a celery stick, and he can make something that's fantastic.
Totally.
Okay, great. So he's got the skills. What does your mother make?
My mom is also a great cook, but she's an awesome baker as well.
Okay.
So I learned a lot about food science in general and flavor combinations and all that kind of stuff.
So she's advanced in her knowledge. What did she impart to you when you were a kid?
Well, I was basically helping my parents in the kitchen when I was really young because none of my brothers were interested in that. And my parents were really big on entertaining. So they always had big parties and they'd cook these elaborate meals. And I was like their little helper from very young. So I learned how to cook for large groups when I was really young.
Right.
And then I have a huge family as well. And we have these big trips every other year in Lake Tahoe. And so I've had to cook for 40, 50 people. And these are the kinds of, this is the environment that I grew up in. It really helped me a lot with production management and just all the food science behind, working with cannabis. There's a lot that I learned as a kid about food science that's applied to this business.
Interesting. Okay, so first let's do large groups. So how many aunts and uncles do you have, or aunts and uncles?
About 12 or 13 altogether.
12 or 13 aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
And so then you can very quickly get to 40 people if those all had children, or at least most of them.
Between both sides of my family, I've got quite a bit of relatives, Especially on my dad's side. He had 6 siblings, so they all have kids, and we have a big family.
Wow. And then you mentioned that you have brothers, plural. How many?
3 older brothers.
Oh, boy. Okay. Older brothers.
Older brothers.
And those bastards didn't want to help out in the kitchen.
No.
All right. I mean, they're nice guys, though, right?
Yes.
What do they do? Did they know how to cook?
Yeah. They're all pretty good cooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. They're good enough.
Good enough.
Okay. And so we've got these aunts and uncles, and we've got these, I guess, cousins for you, and the cousins know how to cook. Okay. But you're the one that has made it your trade, or is there anybody else that's practicing this?
You know what? No, there's not too many people in my family that pursued food, actually. Yeah, it's kind of surprising, actually.
Based on everyone's talent level.
Yeah.
Let's talk about food science. What do you mean? Get into it.
For instance, just learning about how oil and water separate when they're cooled. That's the concept behind, making cannabis butter. There's a part of that where the separation happens, and you have to understand how it's going to happen and why it happens. And that's just one example. But when you're, creating multiple products at one time, and it all comes down to timing. Food production it's all timing and execution. So all those little nuances are all part of how I manage the kitchen and the production.
Right. And especially when you're making whatever you're making for 40 people, you've got to do it correctly, or else that's a lot of food that was wasted.
Totally. And my family is very frugal, so I also learned how not to waste anything. And ever since I started this business, we use every single part of the plant. Mm-hmm. We don't waste anything. We're really good about minimizing loss, because that can, obviously affect the bottom line.
Yeah.
So
indeed. And you bring up frugal, and those are some would say that those are Italian traits or Irish traits, and I certainly know personally that those are Jewish traits. And so I just wonder who's not frugal if everybody's frugal, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, my family line is Sicilian peasants, so they weren't really interested in wasting like anything.
We're not wasting anything. No, we're going to be serving everything.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're in the kitchen. You've got the skills. You know how to make a number of different things. You've got the food science down, and then you go become a dancer.
I know. What the hell was I thinking?
What are you doing? What's that about?
I wasn't trying to piss my parents off. It just worked out that way.
Was that a hobby early on, or
Once again, just being really lucky growing up in the Bay Area, growing up in San Francisco. I got to go to School of the Arts for high school. I had a really awesome experience there. Mm-hmm. And then right after high school, I was like, I want to go to New York and I want to dance. I moved to New York. I was there for almost 10 years and had a great time in my 20s. And then, had my daughter, moved back, and started cooking again with cannabis, actually, when I moved back from New York. So I started doing this when I was a kid.
Right.
And then when I moved back from New York, in the 90s, I was like, I'm going to try doing more of that, you know? And then it wasn't till years later, actually till 2007, 2008, right, when I started thinking about bringing the products to the dispensaries.
Excellent. This is all very good stuff, but you're going way too fast. So we need to dive into New York. So you went to New York as a dancer to pursue that.
Yeah.
And now, me as a New Yorker, I need to know where you lived at the time.
Yeah. Well, because I was a starving artist, sure, I could only afford Brooklyn.
Right.
So
okay. Even back then.
Even back then.
And you said you came back to California in the night. I want to make sure that I do this right. Late 80s, early 90s?
So I moved to New York in 1989. I was 19 years old.
Perfect.
And then I moved back in 1997.
Back to New York?
To San Francisco.
To San Francisco. Okay, so Brooklyn. And then what was the starving artist dance scene like for you?
I did a lot of commercial work when I was there, a lot of industrials back then. It was before music videos and all that. So we would get hired to do these, industrials for Nike or Sony and these kinds of things, where they'd actually hire entertainment for conventions like this.
Oh, wow.
And so that was kind of a big thing back then.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so you were just like, I can see you and I don't really talk to you. You're just dancing there. And...
Yeah, no, there'd be like a stage with a very elaborate performance that we would perform like during the lunch break or something like that.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I mean, it was really good money, actually.
Oh, good.
Those kinds of gigs would kind of carry you until the next one.
Right.
So.
And any more artistic stories that you have?
Yeah, I mean, when I moved back from New York, I got more involved with modern dance again.
Oh, you did?
Worked with some really great companies in the Bay Area.
Okay. All right. And that's a security guard on a Segway. So that's what happens here. Yeah, exactly. Deep within the catacombs of the convention center. Anyway, so you really did you did invest yourself completely into dance, and you were really actually a dancer for a good 10-year period.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then was it the starving that you got fed up with, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a short-lived career, regardless of the funds that you might make during that time. But I just I had a daughter during that time.
So you did have the daughter in New York?
Well, yeah, she was conceived in New York. She was actually born in California.
Okay.
But no way to raise a child as a starving artist, so I kind of needed to figure something else out. And that's when I became a bookkeeper. I
see. And then you're taking care of the money, so of course they're going to pay you at least decently.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay,
yeah.
And a bookkeeper for who and what? And
I had my own business. I worked for a lot of different types of businesses and also some nonprofits. I did that for almost 10 years, and it really taught me a lot about business in general.
Yeah. So for those of us on Earth who know dancers, those people aren't bookkeepers. So how did you have both of these
I know, it's weird.
Pieces of
personality? Well, I really like math, so
okay.
that helps. And I'm trying to think of what the connection between dance and bookkeeping. There's absolutely no connection for that.
Those are opposite people, is my point. That's the opposite people. You got the bookkeeper over there, and then all the way on the other side is the dancer.
I know, it's weird.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's like everything else in my life. I tend to choose these really unrelated career paths.
Okay, well, dancer, and then you go into bookkeeping, and then you're helping people and you're helping nonprofits, and thank you so much. So you gave us art in New York, and we appreciate that, even if it was for Nike. And then you came back and you're helping the nonprofits with the bookkeeping. And then why didn't you just keep doing that?
Because I hated it.
Oh, well, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's Youngsville, USA. It's just,
okay,
not the most exciting. But I learned a ton. Like, I totally don't regret it.
Right.
I learned a lot about what types of businesses do well and why they do well, because I got to see so many different businesses, got to see behind the scenes.
Give us shorthand. What types of businesses do well? Yeah.
One company that was a huge inspiration for me is Cosmic Debris. It's a manufacturing company. It's a t-shirt company that started like in the 90s. And I got to see them grow from a very small company to a huge company, and they ended up, they're still doing really well, 20 years later or whatever. And
what was it? Obviously, it sounds like they have a strong brand.
Strong branding and, manufacturing of a strong brand. It's just, once again, back to the numbers, just do the math. It's like, they did really well.
Okay.
So that was kind of a cue to me. Like, I think I want to get into manufacturing of some kind.
I see. Product
manufacturing, maybe not clothing, but something like this.
Right. With a strong brand attached to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so?
And then this whole cannabis thing just kind of fell in my lap in a weird way, whereby I was making these treats for my friends and family and myself. And, it was like 2007, 2008, and some of my friends were like, why don't you try to sell your product in the dispensaries? I think you'd do great. And I was like, I've never even been in a dispensary. I was like, Northern California native. Yeah. I never really felt the need to go get a doctor's note to like smoke weed because it was just so accessible, So I was like, oh, now I got to go get a doctor's note. So that was like, I had to get over that hump first. And then I was really glad I did, because I finally took my first trip to a dispensary, and I was like, wow.
Do you want to name drop?
Yeah, the very first dispensary I went in was Meta Thrive in San Francisco. Is our very first account.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, and the minute I walked in, it all came together, because I was like, wow, we're in San Francisco in like a premier dispensary, and there are no good edibles here. Like, this is like the birthplace of medical cannabis. This is like a food mecca. People love flavor. They love good quality cannabis. Like, why aren't there any products on the shelves that reflect that?
Ding, so. I can cook. Right?
Well, I was also like, God, look, there's like no savory products. There's no like low glycemic, like everything's just like white sugar, white flour crap, all these like carcinogenic ingredients. And then they all taste like crap too.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to make a good edible that's like totally different from anything else out there. That's healthy, tastes good, packs a lot of punch, and that was the model from the get-go.
Fair enough. Before, though, you walked into the dispensary, how did you come upon, you said it fell into your lap, how did you come upon CBD and this network of friends that were telling you you've got to do this professionally? And where was that kernel of the beginning?
Okay, well, just to clarify, at that time, I didn't know anything about CBD. This was 2008, and I was only working with THC at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, great. So thank you for clarifying. But where was that kernel of,
I think I was really lucky because I knew quite a few growers already, and I already had access to the product to make our products. And so that certainly helped. And then just bringing all the pieces together. I mean, our first product was like a toffee brownie. And I mean, even though brownies are really popular, it was like different because it had toffee and it packed a lot of punch, and it was very small. We were one of the first companies to come out with very small edibles. And yeah, that was the first product to become popular. We developed the savory pretzels next, and that was a product that like really unique to the market. Nobody wanted to try it the first year. It literally took us a year to get that product off the ground, and now it's like our #1 bestseller. So sometimes it takes a little bit to get people to understand like the concept behind the product, and then once they get it, they're like, they usually never turn back to these other
Yeah, if natural product is where you're going though, and it takes a year to kind of get it off the shelves, don't you have shelf life issues there?
Yeah, well, of course, we didn't produce anything unless we needed to sell it. We,
Right.
we have a really good like turnaround on our products. We're not like selling stale product.
But what was that moment where it started to just kind of climb?
It was when we became more popular down in Southern California, and I noticed that
Oh, wow.
our sugar-free products were really gaining momentum down there because I think people are just more health conscious and
Right.
perhaps, stay away from sugar more. So,
Well, there's so much of that sun.
yeah.
You can't wear all of those clothes, so that helps,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
And so, if you started in 2008, how quickly did you expand from just the Bay Area?
Our first year in business was probably our biggest growth year. We literally were expanding down to San Diego from San Francisco within a year of starting the company. And I mean, back then it was a lot different. This is before there were a lot of raids starting. And so like in San Diego alone, there was probably over 100 dispensaries. And yeah, we were in multiple dispensaries up and down the state within year two. Like by 2010, I think we were in like over 400 dispensaries. Of course, most of them have, been closed down.
Indeed.
Since then, they've either been raided or forced to shut down. So yeah, it's been a long, windy road.
To say the least. Take us through that kind of up and down. So, you expand to all of these dispensaries who then get closed down. Talk about you as a business person and you, someone in the industry, as that happened. Take us through that entire process.
So this is where the bookkeeping really came in handy because I've been bootstrapping the company since 2008, until we raised money last year. I mean, we literally, we just had to dance and bob and weave to stay afloat because what was happening was we had all these amazing customers and then, they'd come in, the feds would come in and just sweep out a whole area. Like Riverside just got shut down overnight and we lost like 20% of our clubs, and so that would happen a lot whereby we would lose huge sections of the state to these massive closures, and I would have to like lay off people and then like go hire them back like a month later.
Right.
I mean, it was pretty disastrous actually, and it's like challenges that exist in this industry and nowhere else.
Yeah.
And so it's, very, very challenging.
Absolutely. And so in terms of the hyperkineticism of that, how long would you say that went on for? When did it start to calm down? Knowing that it still happens.
I know, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah,
Right.
It is. Sadly, in California, it's still happening.
Yeah, right.
People think it's like totally legal everywhere, but it's actually still happening.
Right.
I'd say 2010 to 2013 were probably the roughest years altogether in terms of club closures and raids and letters, lots of letters that went out to our dispensaries that were forced to shut down because they would basically force the landlord to evict their tenants if they were cannabis-related businesses. And so, yeah, the feds have found lots of ways to, smack us in the knees
Right.
and cripple us, basically.
Sure. We can talk more about that in a minute. But basically, you went from 400 dispensaries to 150 dispensaries, which is still extremely impressive.
Well, now we have about 225.
Oh, I've
but
got
it's
an old
just-
number there.
It's a bit of a cat and mouse game. It really is. It's
Okay.
and we're not really distributors. We're all about product development, and so the distribution side is certainly the biggest challenge for us.
Right. Why? How so?
Because it's such a fragmented industry in California, and because of all these changes that happen all the time.
You've got 4 or 5 different states happening in California.
Exactly. It will, even LA alone, like if you really want to be effective in Los Angeles, you need like 5 or 7 different reps because it's that many territories just in LA.
Yep.
And then there's the issue of like which clubs are pre-ICO and which ones aren't. I mean, if you want to work with only legal clubs, you're looking at maybe 600 to 800 in all of California. The rest of them are technically not even legal. So it's a strange picture.
Indeed.
All around.
Indeed. And so, I want to kind of make sure that we get through everything. So you have started to do some licensing, right? Based on the fact that California is a little bit wacky, to say the least.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
Well, we when we first started raising money, that the main reason was so that we could build a national brand and bring the brand to other states. And in order to do that, of course, it's not like any other industry where you could just ship the product across state lines. So we had to find creative ways to do this. And so how it works is our licensee partners in each state will produce the product in their facility using our ingredients, but using their cannabis.
Interesting. And so is this, like the prepackaged little
Batch kits
that's a true thing?
That's essentially how we will do it when it actually gets off the ground.
Oh, okay. So I'm ahead of myself is what it is.
Well, unfortunately, once again, it's dependent on regulations and everything. And, Washington, for instance, we thought our product would be in Washington by now, but we've had to wait for a lot of changes and regulatory issues to sort of resolve themselves. And so that's a little frustrating when it's all dependent on what the regulations look like in each state.
All right, so then let's go back to kind of building the brand and then get to 2013 and then go from there. So in terms of product management, because you said that that's your sweet spot there, talk about how the product changed from 2008 to 2009 to 10 to 13. You mentioned the pretzels. Did you find those early on?
Yeah, well, once we realized that the savory products were as unique and in demand as they are, we just started to develop more of those. So we developed like chili lime peanuts, and then we brought on the caramel corn, cheese crackers. We now do glazed pecans. And so they're all like snack foods that come in a container with multiple pieces inside so that you can sort of titrate your dosage a little bit better depending on your tolerance level. And then the package tells you like how many doses are in there and what constitutes one dose and so forth. And so, like if you look at our branding from 2008, it was just very simple, black and white. And, flash forward to 2013, by then we started using the pouch bags, and now we have these actual canisters with the products in. So if you look at our packaging from like 2008 to now, there's quite a metamorphosis that went on there. So.
Sure, and with a little bit of child safety there at the end, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as far as you've just mentioned a bunch of different flavors and a bunch of different ingredients.
Yeah.
How do you come upon these things? Take us through product development.
Well, like with the glazed pecans, for instance, we wanted to develop a fantastic gourmet product that tasted amazing, but we also wanted it to be healthy.
Okay.
And most like glazed nuts contain butter and brown sugar. Ours contain coconut oil and coconut sugar because they're much better for you. They've got a little bit of cayenne pepper and chili powder in there, but they're also sweet. So they just have like a really unique flavor to them, and they're potent and delicious, and they can be used in your salad. You could put them in cookie dough and bake them into cookies. I mean, there's a million things you could do with the glazed pecans.
So your brain as a foodie goes to that because the application can be in a salad and in a cookie.
Yeah, and I think for folks that just want to be medicated continuously, a lot of people that use edibles fall in that category because they're either managing chronic pain or they're an enthusiast that just likes to have their high going all day long. I mean, edibles are really the best way to achieve that. And so, we just feel like, hey, if we're gonna inspire people to eat our products, they have to taste good and they should be healthy.
Yeah. All right. So the pecans, let's actually go through a few products because you are a product creator, and we talked about how, you have that food science background from the kitchen, from, cooking for 40 family members. What else is something that came upon you that might be a little bit different?
Yeah. Well, we just love to create products that actually combine with other foods really well or combine with each other really well. The chili lime peanuts go really well with our caramel corn to make sort of a spicy, sweet Cracker Jacks mix.
Okay.
And, we're always looking to develop unique products. There's so many similar products out there. I mean, I think there's like over 20 different chocolate companies out there. We'll probably never develop a chocolate product. Why would we do that?
Yeah, it's covered.
It's covered, right?
Yeah. We just saw Scott, didn't we?
Yeah.
So he's got some chocolate.
He's got a little bit of chocolate.
Yeah, Scott Van Rixel, who folks will know from episode 2, I think.
Oh, 2. Nice.
Yeah, look at that. And his daughter was there. And
cute little kid.
Yeah, folks that'll have heard his episode will definitely know her.
Yeah.
As he mentioned. And so let's just quickly, you have that in common with him. You have this daughter.
Yeah.
And how old is she now?
Oh, my daughter's 21.
Holy what? Yeah. Oh my, I feel like I can't do math because you did mention the year and I should have been able to do that.
I had her when I was 23, so I'm
but still,
old enough to be a grandma.
Geez, wow. What does she do? Is she part of the business at all?
No. She just graduated from UC Santa Cruz.
Okay, congratulations. And what's she doing now?
She's an artist, yeah.
You said she's an artist.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure if I do anymore either.
Fair enough. But she's got talent, it seems like.
Yeah, she's really talented, really creative.
And she's got a mother that believes in her.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's good. And does that come from your parents? I mean, it sounds like they were very supportive people.
Yeah.
It sounds like they took work very seriously.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What was the key lesson that you took from your father besides the sauce?
Well, my parents never forced me to be in the kitchen. I really just wanted to be in there. And my daughter didn't show a lot of interest in cooking when she was younger. And I always tried to force her to help me in the kitchen, but she just wasn't interested. So I think it does skip a generation.
It's every other generation. There you go.
Kind of a bummer, but yeah, she loves to cook now that she's older. And she's
good.
Just graduated from college, so she's a little more likely to actually cook for herself.
Indeed. And is she still with you in the house?
No. She lives in Santa Cruz.
Okay, fantastic. So you look at you.
Yeah,
empty nester.
Freedom.
Yeah, exactly. You look. I mean, for those that know, you look like you're 20. So
you're sweet.
Well, I'm not even trying to be polite.
You haven't seen the bags under my eyes.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
These have developed in the last 7 years.
I see. Well, I think it's because you've got that, the culture that you have that you aforementioned.
Yeah.
You've got a darker hue to you.
Yeah.
Your mother could probably tell me a little bit better what I'm talking about in terms of coloration. But you're dark.
Yeah, they call it Sicilian eye makeup.
That's what it is. Okay, so this is
shading that goes on.
I see. All right, so that's what we're talking about with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so that covers that. In terms of California, we talked a little bit about the licensing. That's what you're doing now. And in terms of just regulations and taxation and things that you've been dealing with for many, many, many years. Let's talk about 280E. Why not, right?
Yeah.
What's your first interaction with it? What was your old thought process? What is your current interaction with it? What is your new thought process?
I don't know if my thought process on it's changed all that much.
Right.
Since I first learned about it a few years ago, I've had the same opinion about it, which is that it's a load of caca. And it was developed to deter cocaine dealers from writing off their expenses. It wasn't really created for the cannabis industry, even though it's being applied to the cannabis industry. And it works really well for the government to use this provision against us because it's on the books, but it's certainly not applicable in our eyes. And it's a huge deterrent to the industry growing and achieving some of the things that we'd like to achieve. And if cannabis was not a Schedule I narcotic, this would be such a non-issue.
Yes.
So.
Well, and I just did speak to Rob Campia from MPP last night, who went into the fact that Schedule I, even if it were to come off of Schedule I down to another Schedule II or III, III would be good, but not good enough because the penalties would still be there and we still wouldn't be able to research it. So he's got some specific thoughts, and I'm hoping to track him down here so that he can talk more to that. Even still, though, with 280E, you said you don't see it as applicable in your eyes. Speak further to that.
Well, because this is medicine, okay? We're being penalized for infusing medicine into food, and it's just it's just not right. It's not to mention, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, for instance, we can write off the cost of the cannabis, but we can't write off our operating expenses. Like, I don't understand how that's, and so we have to get creative as business owners about how to separate out, the activities of each of these entities that we might have, right? So and there's certainly ways to deal with it that can help, but at the end of the day, it's just another way to cripple this industry.
Sure. And so for those aspiring to come into the industry, we just talked to Patrick Ray and Kennedy Boulder and all the first class. You said there are ways to deal with it. Do you want to speak further to that without giving away the farm, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think it's really important to find an accountant and an attorney that is really, really well versed on this. And there's so much misinformation out there. It's really easy to take advice from the wrong people that are, meaning well, but they may not be totally informed about it. And so, in this industry, the accountants and the attorneys, like they are often looking to us for information.
How so?
Well, because it's such a new industry and things are unfolding so rapidly, and there's so much misinformation about everything, like 280E and this and that, and how to interpret these laws and how to apply them and how to stay safe. Right?
Yes.
And so, it's just really important to work with accountants and attorneys that understand this stuff inside out. And my impression so far is that many of them don't. And so, that can be problematic because you're taking advice from the people that don't know,
We'll assume that the folks that have been on we're all right with them. You'll go through the episode list after when we're done, and you'll tell me if so or if not. But I think we've got some pretty good, good guys and gals on the roster. Okay, so those are your opinions on 280E. They have not changed, mostly because 280E hasn't changed.
Exactly.
And I love the. This is obviously full of sarcasm, as you know from living in New York, that you can write off where you get the cannabis, but you can't write off your operating expenses.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And just for folks that you're just kind of shaking your head backwards and forwards. Okay, so there you have this operating business which has done well, without question. And from the beginning, you expanded quickly to kind of all parts of California, dealt with openings and closures of all kinds. Have a consistent basis of folks that carry your product, talking about licensing outside, and really expanding. It sounds like you raised some money, so everything's going well, and we're just going to kind of keep it going with just Auntie Dolores, just right down the line. No need to do anything different or new, right?
Well,
yeah. What it's treatables? First off, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. First off.
I mean, this industry is so much fun, and I mean, it's like never a dull moment, but at the same time, there's a lot of limitations, it can get a little frustrating when you have, a killer product and yet there's so much red tape, So, and then just realizing that CBD has so much potential for, animals, not just humans, but just, all these different people that want to use cannabis, but they can't because they don't want to get high. They want to benefit from all of the, healthy benefits that it has to offer. It's the same with pets. So many pet owners suffer because their pets are suffering with pain and anxiety and all of these things. So we just, once we figured out how to cultivate the CBD, so I was able to bring the genetics to our farmers and have them grow it for us. This is how it all kind of started. And we just started to infuse these dog treats with CBD and kind of give them to our friends and family, their pet owners out there that we knew, and see how it went. And I used it with my dog, and the results were awesome. So we just thought, hey, well, we've got the kitchen, we've got all the equipment, and we might as well just go for this, But what I soon realized is that it's a very different market than dealing with dispensaries in California. You're dealing with pet owners and pet stores and
I was going to say that
veterinarians
the humans and pets are different.
Totally.
They're explicitly different markets, but you're not saying that as the way to market is different.
Yeah,
Right.
but they are very different too.
Sure.
All of it's very different. So even though we make it in the same kitchen and, we have all this, the wherewithal to create all these different types of products in our facility, there's very different channels where it's, being distributed.
Okay, and we can talk more about that in a minute, but I do want to get to those conversations that you had with your farmers. Mm-hmm. So this is where the CBD kind of knowledge comes in. What did you find out, and how did you talk to the farmers, and what did we do?
Well, my first introduction to CBD was through Project CBD and Martin Lee in California, who's done a ton of research, and so that was my first exposure to it. And some of the growers that we've been working with for years were really excited to start growing it. And I mean, we've since then, we use different sources now. We actually switched to hemp-derived CBD because we wanted to make this an international product. And in order to sell it across state lines, we have to make it without too much THC, because there's this 0.3% threshold that you can't have any of your products above that amount in THC content. So that's why we switched to the hemp, and we use a really awesome source of hemp from Europe.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can you talk more about that, or no, maybe?
Not really.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. That's something interesting that we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so then we're off and running kind of through the park with maybe a Frisbee. Because it's dogs, pets. Okay, cool. All right, fantastic. So we've got the CBD knowledge. We're using hemp on that side of the business. We've got Auntie Dolores kind of rolling. How come when you speak about what you're frustrated about, that's when you smile most? I have noticed that along the moments that we've been together here. That's literally what happens. Your face looks most happy when you're speaking about these frustrations. What is that about? Do you know that?
Well, if I didn't love a challenge, I don't think I'd still be here. I mean, in 2008, it's, this activity in this industry should be measured in dog years, okay? So,
and some people do, by the way. Some people are doing that, but go on.
So 7 years is really what, 56 years?
Roughly.
Dog years, something like that. It feels like 56 years, okay? It doesn't feel like 7 years.
Yeah. No, I mean, when we were standing wherever we were standing last night, and I said, you've been doing this for a while, and you said, yes, since 2008. And I was like, 2008? I yelled at your face. So yeah, that's a long time, and it's forever ago, because 2009, specifically the Colorado folks, that's a big change there. Then 2010 with a bunch of votes, 2012, of course, 2013, and even 2013 is forever ago.
I know, and so many companies have dropped like flies since we got our start, and so we feel really lucky to still be around.
So the bookkeeping, right? So what is it? And we talked about what you wanted to have in a successful company. What do you think it is? Badass product, right?
Yeah, the product. It all comes down to the product in my mind.
Sure. But it's not just that.
It's not just that. I mean, like I said, this is a very challenging industry to be in, and you have to be flexible, and you have to be quick on your feet. You have to be agile, and you have to be able to make good decisions, fast in some cases.
Right.
And there's been times when I've taken a much more conservative approach to things. Like for instance, well, back when there were so many raids happening and so many clubs shutting down, and a lot of our competitors were actually folding and not being able to stay in business and this kind of thing. And you get a little scared. It's kind of scary when you're worried that the feds could come knocking on your door at any time. They never have. Yeah. And we've always been legally compliant, but there's just never been a 100% guarantee. And so it's really nice that the last couple of years it's much more stabilized in the industry in general.
Completely. You said that it's kind of scary to think that the feds could come knocking on your door. Were you using words in the way that they were meant to be used? Because for most people, that's too scary. And I guess that's your point, isn't it?
Yeah. But if it's too scary, to you, then you shouldn't be in this industry,
Right.
is my opinion. I mean, you cannot possibly operate in this industry unless you're willing to be a little bit outside the box. I mean, it's just...
So 2008, 2009, when you would kind of keep yourself up at night with the thoughts of the feds maybe knocking at your door, what was your thought of what you were going to do if they did that? What was you see what I'm saying? Like, how did you keep yourself kind of sane?
Well, there's a whole protocol, around a raid that you're supposed to follow, and your employees are, they need to know what's supposed to happen and what you're supposed to say, and more importantly, what you're not supposed to say. I mean, all of our employees are trained on day one, how to speak to police officers, how not to speak to police officers, what to say if they get pulled over, what to say if police officers knock on their door. I mean, there's many ways that you can educate your staff as far as how to respond in these situations.
California is different than Colorado. And that still goes on to this day without question. Let's talk about what your thoughts are on anybody I talk to, anybody we have talked to says California, where it's happening. Do you have that 100% thought that we're going to get some laws that are behind the industry very soon?
I think it's a bit presumptuous to say that we've got it. I mean, we don't have it yet,
right.
And if we bank on what we hope to happen, then it's going to make everybody maybe a bit complacent when they should be more active, perhaps.
Yeah.
We're really interested in helping to shape the regulations in California because we want to be able to take what's working in Colorado and Washington and apply it in California, but we also want to be able to possibly reject some of these regulations that won't work for California. And so I'm really interested in being involved in that. And
what might not work for California, just to...
Well, like for instance, California has an agricultural component that no other state has.
It certainly does. What do you mean? Speak to that.
Well, there's just outdoor cannabis is being grown to an extent in California that's like nowhere else in the country. And I believe we should continue to grow sun-grown cannabis because it's less impact on the environment. Okay, we're also dealing with a major drought, so there's like major problems with growing weed in California right now anyway. But yeah, I prefer sun-grown for cannabis edibles. It's better to use sun-grown cannabis anyway, in my opinion, or greenhouse. So we just want to make sure that that these outdoor growers can still exist and do well in the new economy.
Good.
That's just one example.
That's just one.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure to cover, though, Prop 19, because what we just talked about was the fact that we shouldn't necessarily say it's in the bag.
Yeah.
You remember Prop 19. Why don't you take us through it?
Yeah. It was a first stab at regulations in California, and I'm not going to say it was necessarily bad or good. There was enough opposition from some of the outdoor growers up north that it didn't make its way. And I think it was probably before its time. I think if that had passed, it might have not been a great thing.
Why?
Well, we weren't 100% crazy about everything in Prop 19. But
For
I
instance,
also
just a little bit,
Well, it just wasn't. It didn't have everything that it needed, basically.
Okay.
I mean, in a nutshell, there's a lot of nuances.
So if we don't include outdoor grow, that's a problem because we're going to have opposition from within, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that I see it is it's such a huge market in California, yet it's so fragmented and there's so many different operators. And I think a simplified set of regulations would be really, really great for our state. We don't need to have all these like different licensing structures and this and that. We just need to be able to produce all the cannabis that's going to be needed when we scale up, okay? Because right now, I mean, they're not even looking at black market figures, right? But those are all people that consume cannabis regularly that after regulations are in place, we need to be able to produce enough cannabis for that. we also need to anticipate the fact that sooner or later there's not going to be the restrictions over state lines. Eventually, someday, California could probably produce enough cannabis for the whole world if it's set up properly, right? So, I mean, those are the things that California producers think of, right? We think of the fact that like we have the wherewithal to supply like a large portion of the world's cannabis if there were no restrictions. So
everybody, including Mother Earth, which is everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So that's that. Thank you very much. And that's good to know your point of view about Prop 19 back when. It's good to know that lesson is stayed with you in terms of the current regulations. And, you are, or what groups are you active with, so that we can kind of put support that way, if any?
I'm on the board of CCIA, California Cannabis Industry Association.
Great.
And so that gives me the opportunity to help, give my input on edibles regulations. We just try to stay as active as we can in any way possible.
Okay. So outdoor grows. Got to make sure that's, in there. Got to make it as simple as possible. Any other advice?
Well, I think any of the operators that are operating in California now should have first crack at licensing, in my opinion.
Sure.
I think our industry is old enough and we've had to deal with, so much instability. It would be nice if the people that are the strongest producers in the state are able to, get the licenses.
So take that kind of sort of from Colorado, not so much the Washington idea, right?
Yeah.
And that's specifically what you're talking.
I think it'd be great if regulations were just more uniform in general from state to state. Because, what's happened in California with all the patchwork, different counties deciding to do their own thing and not having any state regulations, like I kind of see something similar happening on a nationwide.
Absolutely.
If all these states have all these totally different regulations, it's just going to create like a big California, which is like this patchwork, design of regulations, which doesn't really work for anybody because it's too fragmented and complicated.
Indeed.
So hopefully there'll be some kind of uniformity.
Right.
But unfortunately, with a lot of these regs, is they're allowing for local bans and. Areas like San Jose, for instance, they've got their vertical integration requirement now. So that means that all of these San Jose dispensaries are going to have to produce every single item that's on the shelves. And what that means for a San Jose patient is that they go to a San Jose dispensary, they're only going to be able to see what's produced in San Jose. Well, what if they're a patient that needs an Auntie Dolores product that's produced in Oakland? They're going to have to go outside of San Jose to get it. These are the kinds of things that they don't do it any good for anybody, really.
Yeah, that's they make it a little bit of a mess.
Well, it doesn't promote, a strong industry. It just promotes the opposite of that.
Right. Yeah. Disjointed, to say the least.
Disjointed is a really good word for it.
Oh, good. There we go. So it seems like, and yes, we are kind of towards the end here. I would like for this to go on for hours, but we simply don't have that kind of time. So what we do is we ask everybody kind of the same two final questions. And those two questions are, what has most surprised you in cannabis? And what has most surprised you in life? And so I like to give the two questions these days first so that you can think about it for a minute before I actually ask you the questions specifically and directly. And then what I do is say, what has most surprised you in cannabis? So that you have had time to think about it. And now you could maybe give me a cogent thought.
Yeah. Well, what surprised me the most in cannabis is just the depth and breadth of its application and how many different conditions it actually treats and helps and in some cases cures. It's pretty unbelievable. There's no other herb or plant on earth that actually does as many things as cannabis and hemp do. So that's really awesome.
It's a miracle. They call it the miracle plant. And So that gets into the whole testing and scheduling and that whole thing. But I mean, even off the top of my head, cannabis has come up, MS has come up, seizures have come up, epilepsy, of course, has come up, Crohn's has come up, PTSD has come up, and I'm not even scratching the surface. That's just right off the top of my head. Right. And that's kind of amazing, isn't it?
It is. I think there's, they're looking into perhaps, the whole human race has an endocannabinoid deficiency. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really interesting concept. I don't have a hard time wrapping my head around that one because this plant seems to do so much good for us. And right. There's, when you look at people that have progressed disease and they've never used cannabis and then they start using it and sometimes whatever they're suffering turns around or there's some palliation. And I mean, you can't help but wonder, like, is this something we're supposed to be consuming?
Seems like it. I was in Medicine Man the other day. Pete Williams was taking us on a tour, which we'll have up, and that's great. But we were on the medical side, and simple conversation with one of the patients. He said, how does that new strain going for you? And the patient looked at him and said, oh, it's great. I took it 2 days. I didn't have one seizure. Mm. And everything that I've talked about on this podcast has been anecdotal until that moment mm-hmm. when I was in the same airspace as this woman who said that. Yeah. And that's remarkable, mm-hmm. to say the least. Mm-hmm. So that's what's most surprised me in cannabis as well, for what it's worth. Mm-hmm. What about what surprised you most in life?
Well, it's actually relative to what you just said is just how successful the information has been suppressed mm-hmm. and how the whole human race has been blindsided by BS.
Yeah. Your fellow MIP infused product manufacturer, Julie Berliner at Sweetgrass mm-hmm. Kitchen, had the Reefer Madness poster. They've got the Reefer Madness poster in Dixie Elixirs. I'm sure it's rampant that everyone has this poster up, and it's been 80 years of prohibition, right? That's kind of what you're talking about. Yeah. And just a complete and total misinformation campaign.
Absolutely.
You don't want to add to that?
Well, I mean, I think the truth always prevails. It's just with this one, it's taken too damn long. Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Well, I think that's a good place to end, though. The truth always prevails. Mm-hmm. And this one's taken too damn long, but here's to the truth.
Here's to the truth.
Here's to you, Julianna.
Thank you.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Bye. So, Julianna Carella knows her stuff. That is an industry vet, to say the least. Been going since 2008. And hope you enjoyed the history there and her thoughts on California specifically. I feel like we need to have a few more folks from California on so that we can understand exactly where they are and hopefully where they're going, right?